Welcome to the Ecommerce Marketing Podcast, the highly rated digital marketing podcast that provides weekly digital marketing tips and strategies from some of the world's top digital marketers and e-commerce entrepreneurs that will help you take your digital marketing to the next level. Sit back and enjoy this power-packed episode hosted by Arlen Robinson, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience. Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast, everyone. My name is Arlen Robinson, and I am your host. And today we have a very special guest, John Roman. After leading several successful sales organizations in the telecommunications and software space for almost a decade, John began investing in companies predominantly in the e-commerce arena. A college friend was launching BattlBox in early 2015, and John knew he had to be involved. So he invested in it, offering advisement in a limited capacity. BattlBox started to see exponential growth, and the demand for John's time increased. So in early 2016, John made the decision to step away from his sales leadership role with a software company to join BattlBox and on a full-time capacity. So in July 2019, BattlBox Group acquired Carnivore Club for an artisanal meat subscription box. In October of 2021, BattlBox and Carnivore Club was acquired by Emerge Brands for $18.95 million. John currently serves as the Chief Executive Officer for the BattlBox Group and is here today to tell us a little bit about how to use content and the community to grow your business. Welcome to the podcast, John.
Man, that was a mouthful.
Right. Yeah, you've done a lot, man, in a little bit of time. You know, as I mentioned in the intro there, you know, starting from joining BattlBox on a kind of on a small basis in 2015 to having it be acquired by the BattlBox Group and the Carnivore Club for $18.95 million. That's definitely nothing to sneeze at. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Sprinkle in the pandemic in the mix of all that. Sprinkle in a TV show on Netflix.
Right.
We've had a lot of experiences and been fortunate we were able to grow and learn.
What's the TV show that was on Netflix?
So we have a Netflix original series. It's called Southern Survival. You can open up Netflix. It's global because it's one of their series.
Gotcha.
You can just open up search in Netflix, you type in BattlBox, or you can type in Southern Survival and it comes right up.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. And you're speaking of the pandemic. I could take a brief look at the site. Of course, BattlBox sells subscription boxes for survival gear, and it was really what it is. And I can imagine during the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken, you probably saw some explosive sales or growth, or at least people were a little bit more thinking of survival types of things that they needed to buy in case we're in kind of the scenario when everything shuts down,
right? The end of times.
Yeah.
We were obviously, I think most e-com brands did super well during the pandemic. But survival gear and cured shelf stable meats with Carnivore Club, these were both kind of recipe for absolute domination when everybody is locked in their homes and and needs to order stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, I think kind of marrying those two brands together definitely makes sense because I see that with the survival gear and then the the shelf stable meats is kind of a huge thing that definitely kind of go together. Well, that's awesome, man. That's good stuff, and definitely congrats on the success that you guys have had. As I mentioned at the end of the intro, today we're going to be talking about content and community. How do you marry the two, so to speak, to create a really strong e-commerce brand? And so that's what I really want to start out with. But before we do get into all of that, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and specifically how you got into what you're really doing today?
Sure. So man, you talk about I guess 2015, right, 8 years ago. BattlBox launched 8 years ago on this month. So if I look back then and said, okay, I'm no longer in sales for B2B companies, I'm now involved in a direct to consumer e-commerce subscription niche brand, I would have not thought that was even a thing. Right. Pure happenstance. So I was in 2015, I was investing in companies that were, for lack of better words, crossing my desk. And really that was only being done through the network and friends that I had grabbed and connected with at that point in my life. So in early 2015, I think there were a total of 6 companies that I invested in some capacity. Mm-hmm. And the other 5 complete epic fails.
Oh wow!
Lost all of the money.
No,
but BattlBox was the lucky one, right? BattlBox did well, and continued to exponentially grow. Mm-hmm. So it's pure happenstance. The strange thing is taking all I knew at the time, which was very little marketing, more just how to sell to decision makers, right? To medium, large, C-level suite decision makers. I knew how to have meetings with them and how to sell a solution. And you wouldn't think that there was much correlation. But learning the marketing and the direct to consumer sales piece, it was very, very natural. And you're taking a lot of the same learnings and just, obviously it's not apples to apples, but they transitioned and made sense on a lot of the same tactics and ways you would look at problems.
Yeah. That's a good testament to the fact, like you said, that some of the main marketing fundamentals can cross over no matter what industry that you're in, what you're selling. As long as you kind of focus on some of the core fundamentals, right? They do carry over. So a lot of people don't realize that, but yeah, they definitely do. It's there are definitely some unique things, of course, when you're selling online, direct to consumer. That you do have to be mindful of as far as kind of reaching customers, social media, that type of thing. But yeah, when it comes down to it, it's the same fundamentals. And the bottom line really is it all comes down to focusing on having that great product. You don't have anything unless you have a solid product and that really meets the needs of a community.
Absolutely.
And so speaking of community, this is kind of where I think where you guys have kind of set your pace and have been able to have the explosive growth is because of the community. And so a lot of brands these days kind of hear about this. They hear about, building a community. They listen to the blogs, the podcasts, and everybody's talking about a community, whether it's through the blog and this unique specific content. But if you're kind of in the beginning phases and you're like, all right, where do I even begin to start a community, even by maybe even just starting by creating unique content? What do you do? What would be your initial advice when you're looking to start a community for your brand?
Sure. So there's a bunch of ways to get to the same end goal of building that community. To your point, one of the easiest is just through content, right? Yeah. And it's content that is engaging. It's content that's going to get people to interact with it. It's not just a 15-second video hard sale of your product, right? People don't want to see that. You look at how consumer behavior is changing and shifting, and consumer behavior it's constantly moving, right? It's never in the same spot. But we're seeing this trend, and it's occurred for a very long time now, but it's continuing to trend in the direction where consumers want to purchase from a brand that they can connect with, identify with, have some sort of bond. Mm-hmm. And it's not for all products, right? You might not care about that for your toilet paper, or your peanut butter, or insert one of those essentials that you kind of need. You got to almost look at the need want scale and see where that product fits on that scale. And the farther you're away from absolute need and closer to want, the more important it is to connect with that consumer, right? because they have lots of options. And if anything that we've learned in the last couple of years, especially with the amount of podcasts and content you're seeing on it, everybody's talking about how easy it is to start a business, e-commerce business, and take my course and do this and do that. And they make it sound very, very easy. And the barrier to entry is pretty minimal. But the reality is it's just adding another option to the consumer to make a decision on. And that's where that community building piece is paramount. So back to original question, it's content, right? Content is the easiest, engaging content. But not a hard sell on a product, right? You test content, test the full spectrum of things you think your audience might engage with, right? It doesn't have to be very deep down on the niche of what your product is. It can be just things that you think would be relevant to that audience, to that demographic that you are marketing towards. And testing it and finding out what people want to engage with. There's, past that, there's other ways to create community. So we started, it's now a Facebook group, but it originally was Reddit style forum. So right when we launched the brand, shortly thereafter, we had battleboxforum.com. And it was a very old school bulletin board-esque platform where if you were a customer, you could come in, and back then actually it was open to anybody, right? So you're having these like-minded individuals, people that like to go hiking or camping, or maybe they like survival gear, but really all of the buckets of demographics and likes and interests that our customers had. This was a place for them just to meet other people. And now it's shifted years later. It's a Facebook group. It's an exclusive perk, if you will, of being a active subscriber to our subscription box. You also get access to this group. But either versions of that, right? You're building community there, right? You're putting these people together, whether they're interested in your product and buying, or they're just interested in your product or your content. If you can get them all in the same room, you're going to quickly see like they have some commonalities, and friendships can be formed, and relationships. And then all of a sudden you've created this community. You've created these groups of people. And it's not easy though, right? It takes a lot of work. In the infancy, it's engagement is huge, but it's you don't just create it and hope that they come, right? You have to make it make sense with the group. We were in there every day, every single one of us, posting, interacting with someone wanted to post that it wasn't one of us. We were definitely responding, commenting, engaging with them, letting them know, hey, this is what happens when you do that. And it almost starts snowballing, right?
I see.
You see someone else do it, and then they post, and they get everybody engaging, and it's a snowball effect. And next thing you know, a group of 20 in Southern California are meeting next month to go hiking, and you see cool things like that, and you're like, man, that was what we were trying to accomplish. And it's a weird approach because businesses need sales. Sales is the lifeblood. That's how you grow the business. But we always take this approach where all of our decisions are based upon how does it impact content and community for us. And by focusing always on those two, the sales almost come indirectly. Now, don't get me wrong. We run Facebook and TikTok campaigns and Twitter ads and ads across the gambit and middle funnel. And if we do all of that, but it's segmented and it's at the correct time. We're really focused on this low barrier to entry top of funnel that's massive. And we'll let people, based on their behavior on our site or on platform, determine what segment they go into. And at some point we do ask for the business, we do offer them deals, but we don't lead that way, which is a little bit non-standard.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that's kind of be the focus when you're trying to create these types of communities where yeah, you can't really lead with the sale because that's going to turn people off.
Right.
It has to be more organic, as you guys mentioned. You started with the basic forum, and you got like-minded people together. People are into camping and survival type things, and they saw the commonalities that each other had, and then just kind of went from there. And then, of course, as you guys were kind of, I guess, moderating it, putting content out there, suggesting ideas, putting posts, then that's kind of, I think, where you or any brand that does something like this comes off as the authority. And then that's where I think the power is, where people will be like, you guys have become kind of the go-to group for, survival, where not only are you guys the authority, but there's other individuals that are in the group that are providing a lot of value to it. So it's not just you guys, it's people that are in the group.
Yeah, it's you nailed it. And I think that applies, that mindset applies to whether it's direct to consumer or B2B, like provide value. Ask for nothing, just provide value. Yeah. And it's crazy what accomplishes from that. Just it's the way business is done. As the behavior of purchasers changes. That's what people want.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And what I see a lot of times, because it's been talked about a lot with the Facebook groups, there's all of these other platforms to create your own community, create your own portal. And a lot of brands are trying to do it where, like in your case, you said with your subscription service that includes access to the community. A lot of brands are doing that. But what I see, and where I see a lot of brands failing, is they, like you said, they put it out there and they just expect it to just automatically, come together, and people immediately jump into it. And so what I see a lot of brands doing is they'll start it, and I'll go to these different communities, and there's just like no activity at all. And then, it's not moderated and there's no engagement in there. And then, they may do it for a little while and then they just leave it. Yeah, I definitely agree that it's the type of thing that you have to be heavily involved in. Your team's got to post, you've got to have that engagement. And, it's going to take time. It's definitely not a way to kind of build an instant community. I know different things that a brand can do, or events that'll happen. Maybe you have an appearance on a national or global stage or show. Yeah, you can get a lot of viral activity in a short amount of time. That can happen. I see a lot of that happens to different brands. But as far as the community growth after that viral event is where you still got to put the work in.
Right. It's still a grind. It's a long game.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, it is.
We could probably name a dozen aspects of business that it's the same thing, right? Yeah. Exactly what you said. People start putting it in and they don't get that instant reward, instant gratification, and they give up.
Yeah, it's true. And it's a tough thing because we all know as an e-commerce brand, there's a lot to it. You don't have a lot of time. You got to be constantly concerned about your sales, your revenue, the profit, and things that take time. A lot of times the brands may kind of pull away from it. They start doing and they say, okay, I'm not seeing the ROI in this. Does this really even make sense? And
yeah, so TikTok is probably a great example of us for that. So we had, let's see, I'm trying to date this. Okay, so I grabbed our BattlBox No E, that handle at TikTok in early 2020. Sat on it. We made 0 posts until February 2021. So 2 years ago this month. And at the time, probably everybody thought I was a little bit crazy, at least internally, because like I'm super, super confident. I feel we're already late to the TikTok game in February 2021. I was wrong about that. We weren't late. We were still on time with getting up, but I felt like we were late. And we weren't as early as I would have liked, but talk about just trying to figure this out. We're going to this platform that at the time is mainly just a bunch of younger generation dancing.
Right.
And I have this gut, and I was like, no, like our customers are going to be here too. And we didn't dance. That's not our brand. We're not going to do that. I think Brandon is the face of our brand. I think I got him to do one silly dance one time, and it was painful. But that's just not us. And for literally 6, 7, 8 months, and I've documented some of this because we were going and trying to learn and just trying to navigate this without much success. But we just stuck to, no, we're going to continue to do this consistent posting. We're going to try all these different types of videos on here. We're just going to keep trying it because there's something there. And it's the same thing. We just kept going, and thank goodness we did. Eventually hit a banger of a video, and then a few months later, another one. And now it's our biggest channel, which is just mind blowing. That 2 years ago, it was 0 posts and 6 months of failing to now become our largest. It's the same thing. Just most people would have probably given up, but that's you just can't when you know that something needs to be done and is right. You just have to kind of have blind faith at times and continue down that journey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's a good point. With TikTok, initially, when somebody thinks about your brand, what you guys sell, the survival gear, camping type things, you're like, all right, TikTok, the younger demographic, are they even thinking about this stuff? The first thought is like, this is not going to work. So I definitely see where you're coming from as far as, still trusting your gut and just knowing that, this TikTok, there's definitely a community there for us, and we just got to stay the course.
My entire team just thought I was crazy for 6 months.
Right. Yeah, I understand. I've talked to many other brands, but I've also talked to other TikTok evangelists, so to speak, and they preach the same thing, and they say, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and there's a lot of businesses that you may not necessarily think of that can benefit from it, but they can, for sure.
Yeah, it's just kind of mind blowing how amazing their algorithm is compared to all of the other main social platforms algorithms. Like, I've never seen something where, as a consumer, within a very short period of time, that For You page has been curated and tweaked, and it's exactly pretty in line with what you want to see. And like, you and I, Arlen, might be identical people, right? Very, very similar. But like our TikToks are going to be vastly different because it just knows, based on just little variables, how long you're on a certain type of TikTok. And then the next one that's similar, how did you interact with that one? Like, it changes on a dime, and it's impressive. So with that being said, I have confidence that it's going to figure out who wants to see our content and show it to them.
Yeah, for sure. Now, earlier on, of course, you mentioned what you guys did as far as the kind of the tools that you use to get this out there. You mentioned you started off with just a basic kind of Reddit type forum. You then kind of expanded that onto Facebook groups and some other types of communities. If you can kind of speak to some of the tools or other resources that you've used to really make all of this happen, to kind of keep this community going, moderate it, and manage it. And what were the tools that you use, and how all did it work?
Sure. So the forum was just, and I wouldn't suggest that. We're now on the Facebook group.
Yeah.
And I know some people are pretty polarized on, should you have your group community on Facebook?
Yeah.
I mean, they do a really good job, right? It's really easy to moderate. There's all kinds of mechanisms in place to ensure it's a great experience, where you can have rules in place where if anybody says a list of, I don't know, maybe 70 words on a comment at all on our group, the moderating team gets an instant notification of that, and it's reviewed to make sure it's not negative or inappropriate or something else that's against our policies. So I'm a big fan of Facebook for the groups, and maybe at some point we'll outgrow it, but we don't have all of our members in it. We have about 8,000 or so that are on the group, so it's not it's decent size. And I enjoy it. Now there are the issues. People complain all the time. I'm not on Facebook. But unfortunately, at a certain point, you have to try to just appease the masses. You can't, you just have to manage that way. But other than that, it's really all of the platforms, to your point earlier, like, even TikTok. Now, is TikTok going to be successful for every brand? No, right? Like, just like Pinterest performs great for some of our brands and does not perform well for others. And same with Twitter. I think you put content out on all platforms, and you find what's working and which platforms. And I think you double down, you lean in on those. And then you don't just write one off. I think we've had a back and forth relationship with Twitter where it's never given us what we were hoping for, but we continue to test on it. We don't just write it off. Like, there's still audience in there for us to connect with.
That's a really good point, because with anyone that does any marketing, you do know that, of course, you got to do testing. It's just testing. It's always, I guess, the phrase with all of this stuff is ABT, always be testing. As far as, there should be ABC when you're selling, always be closing, but ABT, we're always testing. And a lot of times you may think that, okay, you can test on a certain platform, try different campaigns for a certain amount of time. It doesn't work. Pivot, move to the next one. And then naturally you may think, all right, I'm not going to go back to that because, we tried that. It's not going to work. But I'm glad you mentioned it, because just because that one campaign that you tried several months ago didn't work, you didn't get the right community, didn't resonate with the audience at that time, doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to work several months later. Because there's a lot of factors that can change that. There's definitely new people on the platform. The platform may have changed a little bit. Their algorithm is constantly changing as well. So you do have to consider those factors, and don't necessarily, like you said, write things off just because it didn't work at that instant.
Yeah. So a great example of that is YouTube. So for us, YouTube, we were slow and steady. 500, maybe 600 new subscribers every month, like clockwork for years.
Okay.
And then going into the end of 2021, actually end of 2021, December, January 2022. So not that long ago, YouTube changed some stuff on their algo, giving a lot of credit, way more credit than they previously had done with their YouTube Shorts product.
Okay.
Direct response to, they are afraid that TikTok is maybe stealing their lunch. How do we fix this? Well, tweak the algo so it treats this YouTube short stuff as gold, and the creators will follow. And we saw 500 subscribers like clockwork every month. And we were at about 56,000 subscribers in December 2021, January 2022. And all of a sudden, our Reels content, or our Shorts content, the same content that we had been posting on Reels, posting on TikTok, all of a sudden was being treated differently. The algorithm changed. We shot up to 500,000 subscribers in the course of a couple months.
Wow.
Not doing anything different. All of a sudden, the content was just, when we didn't give up on it. We kept, trying to grow YouTube. And all of a sudden, this short form content now was worth way more to them than it was previously in a matter of months.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's a great testimony to like you said, you had it out there, you didn't give up on that, but then just because the platform made the tweak where they're, like you said, trying to compete with TikToks and all of this short form content, and they're giving a lot more I guess priority to those views, the views of those shorts. And it's just those back end tweaks that happen. Well, good. That's good stuff. I'm glad you mentioned that. As we get ready to wrap things up, what I wanted to see is if there's any example of, either with your brand or any other brand that you're familiar with that has done just a great job with content and community building, and if there's something that you can highlight from what you've seen?
Sure. So I'll give you a non-traditional answer here.
Okay.
So I do think some brands and do a good job. I think we do pretty well. We're constantly trying to improve. We're always a work in progress. But where I'm getting the motivation for now is very, very unusual. So we're talking about brands and building the content and community piece, right? And you build it on top of the brand, and then the result is, here. You're starting to see these creators, whether you want to call them influencers or creators, the Mr. Beasts of the world, right?
Yeah.
Where they built the content and community, and then they built the businesses and brands on top of it.
Yeah.
And by going in that different order, Mr. Beast launches a fast food ghost kitchen model, and he's nationwide. Whether Arlen, you in Orlando, or me in Atlanta, we pull up Uber Eats and we both can get the same thing. And there's not a brick and mortar. Like, it's just mind blowing that they're now accomplishing it in the different order. Yeah. So my advice is, look at these creators that have these large followings, and look at the type of content they're putting out in the community they're building. Because they're building it all before they build the business, which is bizarre, but I think you can take a lot of the learnings from their approach towards content and community, because if you can replicate that on your end, you're just going to have this fanatical loyalty among your customers.
Yeah. You're right. It's a different take on it, because like you said, these creators, at the outset of them getting out there, becoming an influencer, posting content, they're probably not really even thinking about, building a business per se. Their mindset is to, maybe promote other brands, other products. But then when they've amassed such a huge community, then it kind of makes sense. Then they have that loyal following. Like you said, people are almost fanatical about following them, consuming their content. They're like, all right, how do we double down on this? How do we monetize it? And it's like you almost kind of have an instant kind of customer base, if you will. Of course, people still have to pull the trigger, use their credit card there, but that loyalty is already there, and that's a tremendous value.
Yeah, and maybe that's what I like about it, is you're looking at this content and community, the content they're creating, the community they're building, and maybe it's because they're creating it with no secret agenda, right? They're just putting their passion into creating this content, and consumers can tell. Consumers can spot real from fake, right? I think a lot of times brands don't give the consumer enough credit. They know when something's not real.
Exactly. And you nailed it there. And then that's kind of where we've seen such growth in, like, the Mr. Beasts of the world that's been able to, like you said, launch these ghost kitchens, just because they're the real deal. They've already established that relationship with this following. The trust is already there. They come off as an authority on a lot of subjects. And so, that's really what you really need up front. And it's, like I said, it's a reverse order, but they've really been able to kind of win over a lot of people and sell a lot of product that way, for sure. Well, great, John. This has been an awesome discussion. It's very timely, as we've all seen. With the TikToks, building this community, there's a lot of ways you can go with it, and I think what really resonates with me and with a lot of I know our listeners as well is you got to start, and it's not going to be instant. If you don't have anything going, don't have a community, Facebook group, just get it going, and then just slowly build it. You may not see an initial return, but it's something that's a long game, and it can definitely help complement your sales and build that trust there with your community, for sure. Like I always do with all of my guests, is like to switch gears in my final question, just so our audience can get to know you a little bit better. If you don't mind sharing one closing fun fact about yourself that you think we'd be interested to know.
I'm an avid sports card collector.
Okay.
So all of these, it's not product. It's my midlife crisis of I'm acting like I did when I was 12 years old and collecting athletes printed on cardboard.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was wondering what those boxes were, but so okay, so I got a friend of mine, a buddy of mine, a high school buddy of mine is in the same thing. He's a really avid card collector as well, and I never really realized until I started kind of following some of his posts how much business is behind this.
Oh,
and,
it's insane.
What you can really earn on some of these cards and the collecting. It's it's like almost a whole subculture there that not a lot of people really realize that there's some big business behind these.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, man. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I wish you would success with that as well. But yeah, it's like you said, it's more than a hobby, I know. And it's, like you said, it's almost like a business there. Yeah, for sure. Well, lastly, before we do let you go, if you don't mind letting our listeners that want to reach out to you, pick your brain any more about content and community building, what was the best way for them to reach you?
Sure. So I'm most active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I try to be active on all channels,
okay.
but LinkedIn just is my favorite.
Gotcha.
I also have onlinecasesto.com. It's just my blog. So
sure.
I'll give use case studies, stuff we're working on. What I like to do though is include stuff like, I just don't want to include the victories. I want to include our failures. Because to me, that's where we really get the learnings and figure out how to be better, stronger, faster later. So, if you go in the backlogs of it, you'll see like 4 or 5 failed TikTok attempts, and just trying to document what we do and what's working and what's not working.
Gotcha. Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I definitely recommend that our listeners reach out to you, try to connect with you on LinkedIn, and pick your brain. You also mentioned that you guys had the original Netflix series. Was it Southern Survival? They can check out, learn a little bit more about your brand and then how people are utilizing your products in their day-to-day lives. So thanks for sharing that as well.
Awesome.
Well, awesome, John. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show, and I've learned a lot, and our listeners and viewers have as well. And we appreciate you on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Arlen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Are you looking to take your digital marketing to the next level, but are tired of weeding through countless YouTube videos with unproven and untrusted marketing strategies? Well, we have the answer for you. The More Sales Every Month online digital marketing course. In this information-packed course, you will learn effective keyword research, link building, content marketing, and much more to attract and convert your site visitors into paying customers. Just go to moresaleseverymonth.com and sign up today for a low one-time fee. In addition to this power-packed course, if you would like to get access to a growing repository of digital marketing articles, PDFs, and ebooks, check out getosi.com/resources and opt in to get full access to our library of priceless marketing information to help you take your digital marketing to the next level.